Go inside the Crimson Tide. Tider Insider TV with Rodney Orr and Gary Harris.
You could hear the sigh of relief from Alabama fans all over the state the minute Landon Collins intercepted that throwback pass from Brandon Allen to seal the Tide's 14-13, what you could call an ugly victory over the Arkansas Razorbacks in Fayetteville. But as we know, there really are no ugly victories. You'll take them any way you can get them. And good evening, everybody. Welcome in to Tider Insider TV, presented each and every week by Buffalo Rock, alongside Rodney Orr from TiderInsider.com. I'm Gary Harris. Pepsi tonight, just plain old regular Pepsi.
I had to get a little calories. I
had to get a little extra shot of sugar. It's been a long day. I had to get a little pick me up right here. And that's the way you do it right there. Pick up some Pepsi or any great Pepsi product the next time you're at your local grocery store. Rodney, as I said, it wasn't pretty, but, you know, I've said this for a long time. In the Southeastern Conference, you never apologize for winning. You just don't. And Alabama is 5-1 overall, 2-1 in the SEC. Let's look back at this game. Certainly offensively, it was not one of the better ones. In fact, it's the lowest offensive output by a Nick Saban coach team since Auburn in 2007. But unlike that 2007 Auburn game, Alabama found a way to win.
Yeah, they did, Gary. And, you know, look at the weather. I mean, that certainly played a factor in it. I think, you know, when you look at it, Alabama had some, you know, turnovers. Obviously, the special teams had a difficult day, but also made the play that won the game, really, when you talk about Jonathan Allen's blocked extra point.
You know, there were a lot of plays that either side could have made, as is always the case in a football game. Certainly Arkansas, early in the game, had some chances to post themselves to a good-sized lead and not take advantage. And Alabama, meanwhile, had some opportunities for some plays as well. But in the end, like you said, it came down to which side could do it when it mattered the most, and that was Alabama. You see the blocked extra point by Jonathan Allen, which wound up being the difference. And that play at the end by Collins. You know, let's be honest, even though Allen went to the other side of the field, that receiver was wide open for a long time, and Landon made a heck of a play.
Well, let me tell you what Alabama's defense did after they fell behind 13-7. They held Brandon Allen to 3 of 10 for 27 yards and an interception in the fourth quarter, and they had 4 second-half sacks. And Arkansas was only converted one third down situation after they scored their touchdown. So Alabama's defense really stepped up.
Yeah, more on the defense in a moment. Right now, here's Nick Saban talking about what we were talking about. Hey, when you win, there shouldn't be any complaining.
And when Landon Collins intercepts the ball at the end of the game, I hadn't seen that much emotion out of our team for a long time. You know, everybody's got such a high expectation for what our team should be. I was just happy to see our players be happy about playing a game and winning. And it really sort of, if you want to know the truth about it, pisses me off when I talk to people that have this expectation, like they're disappointed that we only won the game 14-13 and in the way we played. Really, that's frustrating. You want to talk about something that's frustrating? That's frustrating to me. For our players who play with a lot of heart in the game.
Here are some of the numbers, Rodney. You already alluded to the job that Alabama did defensively. Arkansas coming in over 320 yards rushing a game. You hold them to 89. Now, flip side is Alabama didn't give us 66 yards rushing, but still, what a job up front defensively against a team that had just really run over everybody they played against.
Yeah, did a fantastic job, Gary. And when you look at it defensively, I mean, down the stretch, Alabama was really limiting Arkansas on first and second down runs, forcing them into third and longs. Now, Arkansas had a series there where they converted about 3 or 4 in a row. It seemed like 3rd and 8, 3rd and 9, 3rd and 10, and then all of a sudden, Alabama started getting some more pressure with their 4-man front. Tim Williams came in the game. I thought his pressure really kind of made an impact. Got Brandon Allen moving around. Maybe he wasn't quite as in sync as he had been, and like I said, he was 3 of 10 for 27 yards and had a pick in the fourth quarter. So I thought Alabama's defense really played well. And you talk about stopping that running game. That's a vaunted running game.
Yeah.
That's a vaunted running game. On the flip side of that, talking about Alabama's offensive production in terms of the running game, let's not forget that Ryan Kelly was out of the game, the starting center. You're starting a redshirt freshman, Bradley Bozeman. It's not that he didn't do a good job, but you're talking about a kid that had never really played before. Played a little bit against Ole Miss, and that road experience, Gary, might have helped him a little bit at the end of the Ole Miss game going into Arkansas, but that's a very difficult task that he had to do.
Yeah, some special teams issues, but certainly not for the punter, J.K. Scott. He is booming the ball off his big right foot, the freshman from Colorado. All right, Alabama returns home this Saturday after a 2-week road trip. The Texas A&M Aggies come to town licking their wounds for a couple of weeks. Ole Miss beat A&M on Saturday in College Station. The week before that, they got hammered in Starkville by Mississippi State. Of course, you could argue right now that Ole Miss and Mississippi State are the two best teams in the country, but this was a team that early on, Rodney, people were saying might be the best team in the country. Talking about A&M, you know, it's a week-to-week thing. We start in the first week. After they pounded South Carolina, everybody was saying, well, maybe they're the best team in the country. They've lost a couple, but like we said, in this league, it's hard to run the gauntlet, and this is a really talented football team.
Very explosive offensively, Gary. They can score a lot of points. Now, the problem the last couple of weeks is Kenny Hill threw 4 interceptions against Mississippi State in Starkville. This past week, I mean, he turned the ball over 2 really big turnovers. Crody Pruitt picked him for and returned it for an interception, and then he fumbled later in the game that was returned for a touchdown. So he's kind of had, you know, the last couple of games he's been a little bit shaky, but he's very athletic. He can throw the football, and there you see that pick 6 that he threw against Ole Miss. Yeah,
A&M fortunate not to be on a 3-game losing streak because they really came back and pulled one out against Arkansas in Arlington. Well, the Alabama players and Coach Saban know what this A&M team is all about. A couple of great games the last couple of years, and the Tide knows that this is going to be another difficult challenge on Saturday afternoon.
It's definitely a transition, but we faced teams like Texas A&M before who like to spread us out 4 wide, 5 wide, fast ball, no huddle. So I think we're going to be ready for them. We're going to look at the film, make the corrections we need to make from Arkansas, and get ready for Texas A&M.
Their offense is one of the best passing offenses in the country. Certainly coached very well in the passing game. We're going to certainly have to be at our best to do a good job of trying to get them stopped, and we're also going to have to control the ball on offense so they don't have it all the time.
And here are some of the numbers. Despite a couple of losses, the Aggies offense still dangerous, as we just heard. They lead the SEC in scoring and total offense, but their defense continues to give up points and yards. They're 10th in scoring defense and 11th in total defense, and Alabama certainly hopes that that combination, Rodney, leads to their offense getting back on track.
You know, one player that the fans should certainly watch, Gary, in this game for Texas A&M is Myles Garrett, their freshman defensive end. He has 8 sacks already. We're talking about a true freshman. He's on the verge of breaking Jadeveon Clowney's true freshman record for sacks. One more, and he owns the record.
Yeah, I've heard some people say he reminds him of Derek Thomas a little bit, how quick he gets off the ball.
He's really good.
So you have to block him, that's for sure. Well, some news that caught us a little bit off guard from the Southeastern Conference office in Birmingham this afternoon. It was announced that SEC Commissioner Mike Slive will retire in July of 2015. Slive has served in that position for 13 years. He's battling a reoccurrence of prostate cancer. The prognosis, though, is good. He's expected to serve as a consultant for the conference for 4 years after his retirement. The SEC not only launched its own network under Slive, but in all, league schools have won 67 national championships in 15 of 21 sponsored sports. A national search is expected to begin immediately for his successor, but he has done an unbelievable job. Well, much more coming up on Tider Insider TV. That includes an update on the Tide players in the NFL from Sunday. Some great performances that we'll tell you about. But next, we'll welcome in the voice of the Crimson Tide men's basketball team, Chris Stewart. He's also the sideline reporter for football. We'll talk hoops on the quad, a great event coming up. Plus, we'll get in depth on the Alabama football team from his sideline perspective. And also, we'll be welcoming your phone calls, emails, and tweets. As always, the information is there on your screen, 205-348-WVUA. That's 348-9882. Email us, TITV@WVUATV.com, or reach out to us on Twitter, #TiderInsiderTV. Much more coming up on the show that takes you inside the Crimson Tide, the one, the only Tider Insider TV, cruising along from Tuscaloosa. We're back after this. It's a unique event for the tip-off of basketball season. This Saturday, the Crimson Tide will host Hoops on the Quad beginning at 11 a.m. It coincides with tailgating for the Bama Texas A&M game, so it's going to be a lot of fun. And here to tell us a little more about it is a man who will MC that event. He's also the voice of Alabama men's basketball, Chris Stewart. Chris, good to have you with us.
Good to see you guys. I appreciate you having me on.
Always a pleasure. Hey, what about Hoops on the Quad? Tell us what it's all about.
I think it's going to be a lot of fun. And I do believe, unless you've seen a script, Tony Giles is actually going to MC, and I'm ringmaster.
Okay.
So maybe you may be right, though. I never know. I'll show up and we'll see.
A combo. I'm going to put that one on BJ. That's the way he wrote it up.
That's my fault. I will defer to Tony if we're there and there's 2 mics. But it's going to be fun. You get a chance to see the men's and women's basketball teams. They're going to have some different shooting contests, some skill. They're going to have some fun with the crowd. It's mainly an opportunity to get a chance to put these guys in front of the fans, let them get to know this team a little bit earlier than we've seen in years past. and remind them that as of today, we are 1 month away from the start of the college basketball season. And I know where last year was, but thankfully that's in the rearview mirror, and there's a lot of excitement about this year's team. I know on the men's side, and then with what the women did last year, trying to build off of that, they're really excited there as well.
Well, my question, Chris, is, and I don't know how many practices you've already seen, but I know you've gotten some feedback on how the men's team's been looking in practice. We'll just kind of fill everyone in on how that's going.
Well, you know, the good news, you've got a great core group of guys like the one you just saw make a couple of shots here in Rhett Obasa, some veterans back. Levi Randolph expected to have a great senior season, but you've got 7 much-needed newcomers into this program. And from everything that I've seen and heard, chemistry is great with this group. They really like each other. There is an enthusiasm and an excitement over this year that I think will pay dividends for this basketball team. Two of those 7 newcomers we talked about were Ricky Tarrant and Michael Kessens, who were part of the squad last year as transfers. They've been in the program. They know what Anthony Grant expects. They're going to be called on to be leaders right out of the gate. And I think it's going to be a fun season. I really do.
I do too. I think it's going to be fun. That's a key word, and exciting, and put a little energy and enthusiasm back in the program. I think this team can do that.
And part of what helps too, I think the SEC as a whole is getting better. It's not going to be what we see in football, but I think you're starting to see the other 12 beyond Kentucky and Florida start to play at a higher level, and that's going to help raise the interest level and the excitement across the board.
All right, great event on Saturday. Make your plans to attend 11 a.m. on the Quad. You mentioned football. Let's talk football, because you really do have a unique perspective. I mean, I'm in the press box, and sometimes we get down on the sidelines late in the game, but we're limited because you're the sideline reporter for the Crimson Tide Sports Network. You get some access that other media people don't get. You watch every play from down there. Let's just talk about what you've seen over the first half of the season from this Alabama football team. Times they've been very good. Right. At other times, you know, they've not looked like we expect Alabama to look.
And I think the key is we have, thankfully, gotten to a level with this program where we don't compare this Alabama team to the other teams in the country. We've got to where we compare this team to the Alabama teams of 08, 9, 10 through last year.
Right.
And that's what the gauge is. That's where the standard that we talk about all the time has gotten. And frankly, I don't think this team is anywhere close to being as good as those teams. That being said, they're not competing against those squads.
That's right.
And when they get out of their own way, meaning they don't commit penalties, they don't turn the football over, I think they're still one of the best teams in the country. Their best is good enough to beat other teams, and other teams' best, the top squads in America. I still believe that. The problem is the margin for error is not as great as it has been in some of the past few seasons. So this team can't afford to go out, commit 9, 10 penalties per game, turn the ball over 2 or 3 times, and still win football games. But when they get those things, as Nick Saban says, the errors they're making are correctable. It's not like they roll out there and you look at personnel and go, you know what, there's no chance. That's not the case. They're talented enough to still win every Saturday that they line up, but they cannot help the other side and still do that.
I agree.
Well, Chris, that's some good points, and you know, like I said, you're the man in the inside, so to speak.
I can't see squat from down there. It's tough for me to see anywhere, but especially on the sidelines. But I do enjoy it. It's a lot of fun.
Well, we appreciate you being with us again.
Yes, sir.
The big basketball event on the Quad on Saturday. Of course, you can catch Chris on the sidelines during the Alabama-Texas A&M football game. Thanks for being with us, man.
Glad to do it. Thanks for the invitation.
All right, more TITV coming up, including a Tide football player in some legal trouble. That's later on. But next, we'll be welcoming your phone calls, emails, and tweets. You see the information on the screen. Interact with us. Tider Insider TV has several different ways that you can be a part of the program, all right there for you on the screen. So stay with us. Phone calls and more when we come back to this edition of Tider Insider TV. He was a big play guy during his time at Alabama. Now Sulligit's Rashad Johnson's doing it in the NFL. He had a couple of picks against the Skins, including that one for a touchdown, a pick 6 that sealed the victory for Arizona. They're playing really, really well. And not to be outdone is Tuscaloosa, Alabama teammate with the Crimson Tide. Orlando McClain had a game-clinching interception for the Cowboys. He has really turned his career around, to say the least. Here's some more numbers from former Crimson Tiders in the NFL. Roman Harper got an interception against Cincinnati. HaHa Clinton-Dix and C.J. Mosley led their team in tackles in their recent games. In fact, Mosley is one of the favorites for Defensive Rookie of the Year. All right, it's time to head to the Med Center hotline, take some phone calls. First up tonight on the program is Fred in Tuscaloosa. Hey, Fred, go ahead.
How you doing, guys? Roll Tide.
Roll Tide, what you got?
I'd like to say, first of all, I think our defense played real good the second half, and I want them to keep it up. But my question is, Ken Drake getting hurt, do we have anybody else that can step up in his place, or as running back, or like that Reggie Bush type guy that Ken Drake was? Do we have that type of guy?
Fred, yeah, Fred, those guys are really hard to find, obviously. I mean, Kenyon Drake's a special player. When you're looking for a guy that's really quick, Tyron Jones probably brings that kind of quickness, that explosiveness. Now he may not do all the same things in terms of as a receiver, getting down the field, making those kinds of plays, but, Tyron Jones has been injured with a hand, and, hopefully he'll be back in a couple of weeks. And I think you wanted to also talk about Alti Tenpenny. He's an outstanding running back, kind of in the Eddie Lacy mold, guy that hopefully gets an opportunity as we move along.
All right, let's go over to Cordova and talk to John Max. Hey, John Max, how are you?
Doing good. My question tonight is, after the Arkansas game, what do you think we need to improve on offense?
Well, I mean, when you look at it, I think, first of all, I think Alabama really likes to try to establish the run. They struggled mightily there. We talked about the offensive line issues. They still having continuous I don't want to say really issues, but they haven't seemed to have settled that right guard spot yet with Shank Taylor and Leon Brown. And then you've got Bradley Bozeman. Garrett's a very difficult situation when you're a freshman. Mm-hmm. He's not a true freshman, but a redshirt freshman. He's never really played the center spot, and he's trying to get acclimated. It's a very difficult thing with Ryan Kelly going out. I mean, it just messes up the unity and the cohesiveness that you have. And when you talk about an offensive line, unity, cohesiveness and experience playing together is very important.
All right, real quickly, let's go over to Anniston for our next phone call, and let's talk with, is it Doug? Don. Hey,
how you doing,
Hey,
guys?
man, how are you?
All right. Hey, I thought we played pretty good, man, but people just have to understand you can't always be the best team in the world.
Mm-hmm.
My thing is, man, I want to know about that all the fumbling and the penalties and everything, and the mental lapses in the secondary. I just, whether y'all thinking, and I just think it's a case of the guys not being mature yet, man. They ain't been in the program that long.
Hey, Don, you made good points. They're trying to clean it up. We talked about it last week, but this team, for whatever reason, has been a mistake-prone team this year. And, I think you want to get better at that, but I don't know that this is going to be a team that's going to play mistake-free football. I just don't know that it's their personality. Like you said, maybe some of it's youth.
Yeah, and again, though, the one that's kind of hard to figure out is Christian Jones. He's really struggled the last couple of weeks. He had a couple of fumbles against Ole Miss. He got one back, and then, of course, he lost the one, and then we saw what he did trying to, kind of dive on one on a punt, and he's just really kind of struggled. And you really, it's difficult to figure out what it is. But I think Don hit a point. Maybe it's just not focusing, not being there mentally. They'll continue to work on it, and hopefully they'll get in the plus category going forward with some of these games and turnovers. They'll need to be if they're going to beat some of these teams on their schedule. Well, next on the show, we'll update you on a legal issue for an Alabama football player. And coming up, more of your phone calls, emails, and tweets. Again, there is the information on the screen on how you can get in touch with us, so we encourage you to do so. Always like hearing from you. And we'll be right back with more Tighter Insider TV right after this. A quarter pound of marijuana and almost $4,700 were found in tight end Kurt Freitag's dorm room last week. Records didn't show if he was charged or arrested. The sophomore defensive end from Buford, Georgia, has been hurt and hasn't seen action in a game this season. All right, let's head back to the Med Center hotline where they're lined up for us. Plateau and Panorama is first up. Hey, Plateau, what's up?
Hey, guys. Good evening. Before I make my statement, I'm sure Rodney's going to differ with me, but I wanted to talk about the recruiting evaluations that our staff does. When you look at a large number of players like Trey Flowers, Derunya Wilson, Darius Philon, Benikez Brown, and Amir Abdullah, and a whole host of quarterbacks we've recruited that haven't ever played, do you think the part of our evaluation of these prospects that needs to be looked at, our system for that needs to be maybe tweaked a little bit?
First of all, I think they evaluate it all the time, what they're doing. I don't have any doubt about that. But let's be honest now. When you're talking about recruiting, I mean, it's hit and miss. I mean, if you hit on, you sign 25, if you hit on 12 to 15 of those guys, you've had a great year. I mean, so it's really difficult to evaluate. And some of those guys you mentioned are really good players and they develop, but, you know, Alabama's gotten some really good players too. Now, you talked about the running back from Homewood that's at Nebraska, but, you know, and he's a good player. The question is he better than some of the guys that Alabama has?
Yeah,
here?
and remember when he came out, he was 175 pounds too.
He was, and things change. I mean, Plateau, you got to remember, this is, you know, these, like I said, the evaluation's very difficult to make. Bear Bryant missed on Joe Cribbs. You know, there were other guys that they missed on. So, I mean, it's just a difficult thing, and I know that Nick Saban and his staff continually evaluate, you know, what they do.
Yeah, out of all the guys you mentioned, the only one I really second-guess him on is De'Runnya Wilson. In high school, you could see he had the chance to be something special. Hey, Trey in West Blockton, Bill and Gadsden, we're so sorry. We just don't have time to take your calls. Get back with us next week. All right, we're wrapping up this edition of Tider Insider TV right after this. Alabama basketball picked up a big-time commitment from one of the state's top prospects. Theodore's Dazon Ingram, a 6'5" point guard, chose the tide over UAB and others, averaged 20 points, 10 rebounds, and 6 assists. As a junior, he can really, really play. All right, it's time to get our picks in, Rodney, and once again, time is short, so we're going to get right to it. Alabama and A&M, what do you think?
Well, you know, Gary, this is a tough game to pick. I went 31-20. I'm giving Alabama the home field advantage.
Well, I think it's going to be close as well. I went 30-24, so I think it'll be a good football game. I think Alabama will come out on top. We shall see. All right, that is going to do it for the program this week. Our thanks to the Locker Room for outfitting us in original elephant wear. The Locker Room, a Tuscaloosa tradition since 1964. You can shop in person on the University Strip or go online and shop right there in the convenience of your own home. A replay of this program coming up tonight at 10:30 here after the news at 10, and also you can catch it on the internet at any time at WVUATV.com. And before we go, he was a Tide player who was just too full of Alabama. Tommy Lewis, known for his off-the-bench tackle of TCU running back Dickie Magel in the 1954 Cotton Bowl, has passed away. Lewis was captain of the Tide's 1953 SEC championship team. He was 83 years old.